Good morning, Arnaud.
Good morning. Mambo vipi?
Niko poa uko aje?
Na mimi niko salama, nimefurahi.
Hata sisi tumefurahi sana kuwa na wewe leo. Tunaanza na quote of the day. Felaris atakupa quote yetu ya leo. Utuambie kama unakubaliana na yeye ama au la.
Ama uko na quote yako.
You know what? That's also an option. Yeah, you can have your own quote.
You know, now that we're talking about, we're speaking in Swahili, the quote I'm about to give is from an author who writes in Portuguese. Then his work is translated in English. Now for us to come and translate it in Swahili, we might lose the essence of the quote. But today's quote is courtesy of Paulo Coelho. And it reads, "The world is not changed by opinion, it is changed by example." How does that speak to you? Or how does that resonate?
It's very inspiring. If I'm sitting here in Kenya, after you said a couple of years, there's one personality, one figure that comes to my mind is the late Professor Wangari Maathai. Because I think she gave us a very important legacy, that the fight for human rights, democracy is also tied for the fight for protecting the environment, and the two comes together. I think it's an important lesson. When I first came to Kenya, actually, I think one of the first books I read was Unbowed by her own autobiography. And, you know, a lot of lessons for history of Kenya, but wisdom about a fight. And moving forward, I think we did two things as France, to nurture the legacy of Wangari Maathai, who was actually a personal friend of the French president at the time, Jacques Chirac. During, a couple of years back, during the International Women's Day, we embarked in this project with some of the rose farms here in Kenya, and we designed one of the most beautiful roses by the name of Wangari Maathai, and it's sold in the market. And the idea is that some of the royalties comes to the Wangari Maathai Foundation, also to honor, women leadership. It was the first, I think, African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Yes. Secondly, I think a project where I'm partly proud of is with the Wangari Maathai Foundation and with her daughter Wanjira, we have established a partnership around the forest of Kakamega, which is the only remaining rainforest in Kenya, part of the Congolese basin. And so we have brought some scientists from across the world to document, the extreme rich biodiversity of Kakamega Forest, which actually it's, I think, a hidden gem in Kenya. I will encourage everybody to just check it out and do a walk there, but also in engaging with the young community, the young people of Kakamega, who are the first agent of protection and conservation. So we did a youth cafe, and we also training eco guides. So moving forward, I think actually it's one of the. I mean, I don't want to rate. There's so many best places in Kenya, but I think Kakamega Forest will be close to my heart.
Into the next one.
Diplomacy allows you to say it's one of.
It's one of.
You haven't said how many.
Yes.
I didn't say one of 10.
Yeah.
Just said one of the very many good places to visit in this country.
Yes.
So well diplomatically
I was going to say, take off the diplomatic hat and just give us 1 to 3 top best places in Kenya.
You want me to rate? So I'm not
your
going to.
personal opinion.
My personal.
Not as ambassador.
No.
But
I think
just as
I think the first place, and because also myself, I come from a coastal community, it will be Pwani, and I always, Mombasa Raha. I sort of tweak the misali, but kuingia Mombasa ni harusi, kutoka ni matanga.
Ni matanga. True, very true.
So I think all the coast, the Swahili coast, and the rich culture there speaks to me personally. So I think I will. When you have Nairobi, Kenairo, I think that's the urban culture of Kenya and Nairobi. I think is also a bit overlooked, but very creative. And I think I enjoy. I said, Nairobi ni home. There's something about Nairobi. When you if I need to pick, let me two other places. I think I have something for Kisumu as well, for the lake region, for creativity there. We have reopened an Alliance Française in Kisumu, and I think that was, not having such a place for creative was a missing part of our partnership. So I always like to go back to Kisumu. And then, I cannot not mention, the scenic place around Mulima.
Uliguza? Uliguza Mulima?
Sigusi Mulima.
Hata na mkono, just.
Have you hiked the mountain, actually?
That's actually one of my frustration or things to do before I leave. I haven't. I haven't to the top. I haven't summited. I've hiked there, but it's one of the things. If I don't do it, that will give me a very good reason to come back.
So maybe then don't. Just hold off.
Okay,
Just hold off so that you have reason to come
Yeah, you
back.
have reason to come back.
And speaking of coming back, we've seen enough diplomats who come, love Kenya, love the people, the culture, and then decide, you know what, maybe I'll make this my second home or my primary home. Can we expect to see you around?
Definitely, I think I will come back and both for personal to meet friends, because these 4 years have enabled me to create a lot of friendships, and I think it's important to nurture them. So I'll come as a private citizen, but I'll come back also perhaps for work, because I will be given a new assignment in September, and it has to do with Africa, to continue working on our new partnership between France and Africa, and Kenya has been an anchor in that endeavor. So I'll definitely come back. I said, I have to come back also for one event next year. I cannot miss AFCON. So I'll try to be there for AFCON, definitely.
Congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you.
And getting the Africa gig.
Yeah,
it's a good thing.
It is.
Yeah. Let me ask you, as an ambassador, when you're sent to a country, are you given a specific brief? There's the whole diplomacy, as a country, we have diplomatic relations with this other country.
Yeah.
So we'd like to send somebody to go there and be,
A representative
of our country in that country. Yeah. So Arnaud Suquet comes here as the ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary for France, representing, Kenya and Somalia, right? What was your brief? Were you given specific things? If nothing else, make sure this is done.
I arrive in the backdrop of, a very interesting time, because it was still, COVID was not totally finished. So, there was a lot of time where diplomacy was done online, and which I think defeats the purpose of diplomacy. Diplomacy is meeting people. I mean, you can say you meet virtually, but it's not the same thing. And then it was the election of 2022 had just been conducted, so there was a new guard. I mean, a result and a new guard. So I arrived in that context. COVID was almost finishing, but not totally finished. And then election in 2022 had produced a new political dispensation. So my brief was to try to see whether President Macron came twice actually to Kenya during his tenure. He came in mine too, but even before. So he came in 2019, and then we launched. It was the first visit of a French president in Kenya, and so I had to see whether I can, beside COVID and this new political arrangement in Kenya, how can we push this partnership? And then, well, it came to what you said, eventually the president came back again, President Macron, for Africa Forward. So, but yeah, I mean, the brief, it is what it is, but, when you get brief on papers, obviously you need a bit of reality check, and that's what you do when you first arrive, trying to meet as many people as possible, listen, meskia sauti ya ground, to try to make your own opinion and see whether whether things were told you in headquarters and capital makes any sense.
Different from what you find.
Yes.
I want to thread in a little bit on that. There were years in this country where foreign diplomats, especially the EU bloc, and then the USA would come together to sort of give a prescription of how Kenya should be run. Just to put it as bluntly as possible, right? You know, releasing a statement, that statement from the delegation of the EU ambassadors in Kenya. We are really concerned about this, and the other. And it started changing where Kenyans would push back and say, as who?
As who, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When you were landing in this country soon after an election, where there are two sections in this country which are feeling, no, this election did not go the right way, things happened, and the election went this way and this happened. Did you find a community of diplomats from the EU and elsewhere who were taking sides or who were trying to figure out how to communicate with Kenya? Did they pull you into their pool of, this is what we want to say to the Kenyan government?
You want me to make some friends with my other colleagues? Huh?
They're already your friends.
Friends. No, if you haven't made them friends in 4 years,
There's no hope there.
I think you're asking a right question, is how you do diplomacy in those days, and how do you do diplomacy and partnership established on the respect of sovereignty and mutual sovereignty. You know, when I look at, you know, a situation in a country, I also look at when foreign powers are saying something about our domestic politics in France. You know, we have also a tradition of mandamano and, you know, as you mentioned, Eric.
Yeah.
And we don't also like to be lectured, you know. Your politics is your politics. This is the way it is conducted. You know, you can be as a friend, you know, provide advice, but you know, I think if you research, you've seen that we conduct a different kind of diplomacy based on mutual respect. You know, and if we have something to say, sometimes we say it, but there's a way to say it. I think that I will leave it like that. But
okay, no, let me just switch it a little bit.
Yeah.
So, did you find like-minded ambassadors? No names given. Did you find like-minded ambassadors who would be thinking, let's approach it in a different way? And did you find other hard-nosed ambassadors who would be like, no, people, we need to do that statement tomorrow and say this is the way things are going. So Furia Mandamano is not a good thing or whatever.
Yeah, you can have debate like that, but for us as France, you know, our family is the European Union. So if we have this debate, you know, it is within the EU house. And we can have that kind of debate, and you have different sensitivities and different, and we need to respect that. But you know, I believe this diplomacy of statements, as you said, create some reactions, and I'm not sure it produced the intended effect, you know, as you mentioned. So I've been, you know, more on the side of, you know, we don't like lecturing. Nobody likes to be lectured nowadays, and it's not. And diplomats, I think diplomacy is not, you know, nowadays saying what's right and what's wrong. There's some instances that you need to keep your own principle, and I agree with that, you know. But I think we're not there to judge, you know, on a day-to-day case. You know, we're here to establish partnership with this country. We're trying to be a partner of choice in the socio-economic development of this country. We're here also to be a partner of choice to empower the young people of this country, who are, you know, the bulk of the population. We have interest. I think if Kenya develops economically, it is good for Kenya, it is good for France, it is good for Europe. We can establish partnership, innovation can happen here, value creation can happen here, business can thrive, trade can thrive. So I look at more in that angle, instead of, you know, tomorrow you'll be coughing, tomorrow you have a cold. You know, let's look more at the strategic outlook of a partnership. And at the end of the day, and that's, I think, what France and Kenya, Miangona Mikono, for, you know, a partnership that produce impact and results. And then, you know, everybody has to do his own politics. That's we also going also to our own political cycle. So
To each their own. I wanted to know, from your evaluation, what would you say would be the peak of the last 4 years of your ambassadorship and the pit?
Okay, the peak is easier than the pit. I think the peak was really the Africa Forward Summit, because of the nature of the event. We did it together with Kenya, and it was very a joint operation. I think we learned a lot. I mean, certainly myself, I learned a lot working hand in hand with our Kenyan friends, because that was not something done from France, or even not only from Nairobi. It was really a joint operation, and so we had to mix, the French Cartesian philosophy with a bit of Ubuntu, African approach. So sometimes we have to find, middle grounds. But it was a very interesting process. I mean, I've learned a lot. Then, the ambition to get as many heads of state and government as possible, 35 heads of state and government from Africa, the big leaders from the financial world, but also, we had, I think, 6,000 or 7,000 people the first day at the University of Nairobi, mixing, heads of state, but also young people, entrepreneurs, big capitalists, creatives, sportsmen and sportswomen. So I think we try, and I think it's when I'm sitting here, when I hear, your show, one conversation at a time, we tried. I mean, maybe, it was, we could have perfected even more, but we tried to bring under the big tent of the University of Nairobi all those stakeholders, because as much as heads of state and government are important to provide their leadership, we thought that if we don't engage the large part of stakeholders, we'll be missing the point in creating something that wants to be forward, to bring a legacy. And one of the, within the Africa Forward, let me say that I don't know if some of you were there, but the Africa Forward, Le Concert in Kasarani was mcheche, as you said, it was fire. I think, 4,000 people, about 11 artists, 3 or 4 Kenyan artists, Bien Savara, Costa Ojuang, but also international African artists, Namsebo, Yemi Alade, Fali was supposed to come. And then, he had a big concert before, and but I heard he's coming back. He's coming to Kenya.
I saw something like that on my Instagram. Actually, that's what kind of.
So I think he's also, he committed to Nairobi, I think, right? I cannot speak on his behalf, but I think I heard there's something cooking.
That was a peak.
That was the peak. Now you want the pit.
Well done.
Yeah. It was quite the peak as we clock it now to the pit.
The pit. When I look at it, there was no dull moment in Kenya. The pit. Not really, actually. There's people who have left us, but that's life, and so you turn a page and you move forward. It's a bit of a I won't say it's a pit, but when somebody depart, a page is turned. I won't call it a pit for I think one of the historical moments, let me put it that way, and it's not a pit, that I experienced was when Baba died, and the feeling in the country, the sadness, but the recognition of what he has done, and the need to nurture this legacy was felt across all strands of society and everywhere. Even for people who are not necessarily, his supporters. So, when a towering figure like that disappears, there's one thing that, we say we come as a nation. I think Kenya came as a nation, and it was very powerful to experience it, and the funeral in Nyayo Stadium also were very emotional.
It really was.
I'm just thinking about, even as we reflect on the peaks and pits, what are some things that France better understands about Kenya now that you didn't understand before you come in here, given that we've already seen such a big shift in how Africa is relating to France? Then seeing what the 4 years have been in the work that you've built in terms of relationships with institutions, relationships with sectors, industries, people of Kenya who speak very highly of you. We have Stakima Pepe who's saying he's usually mesmerized by you when you speak fluent Swahili better than some Kenyans. So there's also that relationship that has been built. What do you think France better understands about Kenya now as you exit?
I think we know definitely we can really work together as equal partners. We align on numbers of issues, and I think that was the idea of the Africa Forward. We align on the need to have a rule-based order, for example. I think Kenya has been also a staunch defender of the UN and the multilateral system, not least because you have an office of the UN here in Kenya. And as much also France has been, a permanent member of the Security Council, but it comes with a certain degree of responsibility as well to defend that order that is threatened. And so we see eye to eye on some of those issues, and we believe that when it comes to defending the multilateral order, but reforming it also, I know we're not saying, that's it's far from being perfect. It needs to be more equitable, and it needs more fair, especially when it comes to Africa. But there's a need to bridge this north-south divide. If we have this old outlook on the world that was created, I think, after the Second World War. I think we're still stuck in history. So I think what I admire also in Kenya is that it's this ability to look forward and not be captive of the past. Let me try. I think there's a misali. My Kiswahili was the thing I enjoy the most is the misali, because I think they brings a lot of wisdom.
It does.
So it's yaliyopita sindwele,
Yes.
tugange
Jayo.
Yeah. And I think that's what I learned, that you can build a future and based on mutual partnerships. But everybody has to contribute. That doesn't mean we don't have our differences. We do. But creating this partnership and this friendship allows you to agree, sometimes to disagree.
Yeah, as with every relationship. And I'll come back to what happens when that divergence is, clear as day, because it has happened in the past. But let me stick to the Kiswahili a little bit. A lot of people are very much like, love it when Balozi speaks Kiswahili. It makes it feel, you feel at home, everybody feels at home. But a lot of people don't know where you learned Kiswahili or how. Was it before your posting, or has it just been over the last 4 years? And is there some version of like Alliance Kiswahili in Paris somewhere where people are just learning Swahili? Or in Toulouse, I don't know, anywhere in France.
Yes. No, I learned Kiswahili when I first arrived. So I had not had a knowledge of Kiswahili before coming to Kenya.
Really?
You picked it up fast.
No, so I was very intentional and very consistent. And I think I need to give credit to my mwalimu, Kings Wamai, who teaches also French at Alliance Française. And we, twice a week, early morning, he was coming. And then I told the story. We start by animal books, children books. And then we transition to conversation qua ground, I said, tell me what your taxi driver told you this morning, and we start having a conversation like that. And then the misali. But Kiswahili is, is actually taught in France. And I have colleagues of mine who learn Kiswahili in France or doing stints also in Kenya or in Tanzania. But it's one of the languages taught in Paris at, we call it School of Oriental Languages. I don't know how Oriental Kiswahili is, but it is called like that. So no, Kiswahili has been a thread across my stay here in Kenya, and it really helps you connect to people, and then I was told, I don't know if it's true, you tell me, but in Kenya, people speak their vernacular language at home. They speak English when they have to say something of importance. But the jokes are in Kiswahili, right?
That's very
it's
true.
Actually true.
That is 100%
because this
true.
wasn't your first country to serve as, to serve in. How many more languages have you picked up along the way? Because then if this is a thing of curiosity, how many languages can you speak?
So French, English, and I start as my major was Arabic. So Arabic actually helped a little bit with Kiswahili. Msamiati is coming also a lot of Arab words in Kiswahili. So it gave me a bit of a head start. But it's a different language, yes, definitely. But I like, and the Kiswahili culture, this blend of influences is kind of what attracted me also in learning Kiswahili.
It's a beautiful language, and you're completely right. The jokes, they slap harder in Kiswahili for sure. I wanted to go back into the divergence, and we've seen a few situations over the last maybe few years where, especially as the EU, you've taken some stances about what's happening, especially as far as our civic space is concerned and human rights are concerned. And you said, it's a relationship, it's a friendship, and it's a coming together of cultures and of values. So what happens when the values seem to diverge as an ambassador, being diplomatic, respecting someone's sovereignty, but understanding that we've taken different paths here?
Yes, but I think you have to give credit also to the democratic credentials of Kenya. When I look at it, you have a very progressive constitution, you have a vibrant civil society, you have a free press and media, and I think you have testimony of that. You can pretty much say whatever you want in this country.
Sometimes.
Depends on the day.
Depends on the day.
Okay, but I mean...
almost anything, yeah.
Almost, yeah. And, and when I look at that, I think that's the power of democratic space in Kenya. And so I won't also be too negative. Every country goes for its own difficulty, politics getting, I think, more tense also. I think everywhere you can see the rhetoric.
Very true.
But I think the institutions are fairly solid here, and so when you say diverging, I think we share. I think with Kenya's an attachment to a democratic space, and there's things that we try and we're very transparent with our Kenyan friends. We'd like them to go a step ahead, for example, Europe and France, but we have our own trajectory. We've been staunch champion of the death penalty abolition, where Kenya is actually not implementing death penalty, but has not taken out of the books.
Of the law, yeah.
So that's one of the things, for example, in terms of human rights, we've been advocating, speaking, actually it's a demand of some of the civil society here in Kenya. Some rights groups are advocating for, more than a moratorium, to take it out.
Yes.
And I think it will be actually, you're not far from it, but that will be an important step forward in improving the situation of human rights, for example.
Yeah. Some areas may not be, divergent, but it's where the priorities lie per country. I'll give you an example. In African countries, many African countries signing deals with the EU, and there's some clauses that you shall uphold human rights. And that has been taken into, okay, you shall promote LGBTQ rights in the country, right? And those then bring in clashes. Where do you lie on that in terms of look at Kenya and how Kenya is operating and, the global push for promoting and upholding LGBTQ rights and where Kenya is?
I think when you look at human rights, you see people as individual, as human being, and it comes also. We may have divergence, but even in sort of Kenyan being also a very religious country, you see people with their humanity, and I think that's where it comes as a universal rights. It's not the right of every category of person. You need to look at people's rights in their entirety, and people have a right, the universal right to have healthcare, for example, and I think we look at like that, also protecting the universal nature of every human being, and I think on that, I think we can find some degree of convergence, without singling out every category. Those are the rights of the people, whether you want to call it a certain community, I had this conversation actually, even with the government. I said, if you're, and to the point you were making about the LGBT community, if you deny healthcare to those communities, you're defeating the idea of universal care. So we look at it at that angle, also.
I think you'll find it easier in Kenya, because Kenya, even in programmatic for HIV and all, there's actually, programming that's done for LGBTQ, right? But then you're taking up an Africa role, and you'll find other countries where this is an issue, where it's a no-no, where some countries have even opposed signing deals with the EU because of that particular clause. How would you circumvent that?
I don't think there's a clause in itself, but let me say that it's an important and complex debate, but needs to be informed by history. When I hear this is, LGBTQ is non-African, this whole debate. When I look at South Africa, the history, the struggle for apartheid, the LGBT community was part of the struggle. An entire part and parcel of the struggle against apartheid. So when you tell me, this is a non-African, look, let's also look at history and give lessons, draw lessons from experience and from history. So I think it is a more complex debate and discussions. I think we need to sort of prevent from generalizing, look more as a rights perspective, I think, because I think the LGBTQ community in South Africa saw the fight for their own rights as a fight against racism and apartheid as well. And I think this is a lesson also we need to keep in mind.
As all these things converge, there's also then the economic questions around the continent and our collaboration with the West coming into a lot of question, and everyone just having their antenna up, very suspicious. And it comes from, of course, like we've discussed before, our colonial histories. It also comes from just a time when everyone is on edge, How do we build trust and long-term relationships? And ensure that, there's maybe the legal people who can, go through the T's or the other way around and make sure that everything is above board. But with the public, how do we make sure that we're building trust and having people have faith in multilateral collaboration?
Well, you're asking a very big question that falls upon all of our shoulders, I think. It's not just diplomats and governments. How do you restore trust in the world that, we live at? I was told at one point there's something called alternative truth or alternative reality.
Alternative facts.
Alternative facts. I think a fact is a fact. I mean, I never understood the idea of an alternative fact. I mean, you guys work in media, so maybe how it's an alternative fact.
It was it a Twitter thing or Trump thing? It was, one of the two, but yes, it came from either Twitter or Trump, one of the two.
It's one of those things that we say two things could be true at the same time, so maybe that could be the alternative fact.
The alternative fact.
Who knows?
But I think you're right. I think there's there's also, I think, what I can see from my side is that the power and the credibility of science is also being challenged nowadays, and you see that in matters of climate change, for example, health, and it is a challenge. I mean, I'm not judging. I'm saying, COVID, you had a lot of people who were against vaccination. They thought that was a scam, or and not that vaccination doesn't have unintended effects, but the confidence in science is eroding, I think, and it's unfortunate because all progressive transformation also comes. I'm not saying everything needs to be science-driven, but things that needs to be evidence-based.
Sure.
And we see that a bit of a backlash on that. We see that in the field of information. I mean, you're the first to know that misinformation is a big challenge, and it has effects. Whether fake news go viral can have. It's not just in the information space. It's in the real world. And right, the world is more polarized, is more tense, and we try, as France, to keep our world to be a predictable, reliable partner. I think also that's what the EU is as a bloc. As Eric said, where we stand, and we may be what we are. We may be slow sometimes in responding. We may have our own challenges, but we stand by what we say. And I believe in the world of today, building partnership on reliability and predictability is very important.
If your successor calls you and asks you for a piece of advice as he's come in, settled in, he's like, I need a few tips from you. What are some of those things you tell him from a point of engagement with government, policymakers, engaging with the people of Kenya? What is that piece of advice you'd leave him with, him or her? Because we're making assumptions it's a him.
It's a he.
It's a him. Okay.
I will tell him, just engage. I think the doors are fairly open in Kenya. I think I've never had people who sort of say, no, I don't, and I will have respected that, But definitely people are interested to establish contacts. They, I will say also establish contacts, but also think about meaningful and impactful associations and partnerships. I think because that's what the nature of what we do, it's just not making contacts. It's creating friendship, but eventually delivering. And I will say, the sky is the limit here in Kenya, And the other advice probably is that as much as Nairobi is nice living in, just get out. Go and see it.
Kenya is big.
Kenya is big. So I realized after 4 years, I officially visited 39 counties and did 100 trips, official trips.
Right.
So he can do better than me, I'm sure.
And did you tour the country touring, not going on official trips?
Yes.
And how many places do you actually go? This is Arnaud just going out and spending a week or a weekend.
I go regularly to the coast. I also, actually, one also of the hidden places, not hidden, but hidden gems of Kenya is the northeastern. Marsabit, I was taken
blown
back.
away.
Blown away. Marsabit, this forest, Paradise Lake. Oh my God, one of the most beautiful places. I think I visited Turkana. Turkana is scenic. Lake Turkana, all this work around, human origin, the Turkana Basin Institute, sorry. It's a bit off-road, but a fantastic place to go. So, and during my tenure, actually quite proud because it was a no-go zone and then with a team and with Paris, we managed to open it for tourism. So it's a call also for people to come and visit. People don't think about necessarily Turkana and Northeast Marsabit, but that was one of the memories I will keep also.
I was going to say, there's something, being a diplomat requires, and this is from the outside looking in, requires you to be grounded enough in something that, you know, you have a sense of belonging, you know, to your home and things, but also light enough to then make everywhere else home as well. It's a very it's a very delicate balance. What are those things that keep you anchored to home and to France and hopefully now to Nairobi and Kenya? And what are the things that keep you light and on your feet and able to transition very quickly?
It's a good question. Yes, you need to represent your country, so you don't need to be too detached from you know, from your country. So, as much as I said, you know, it's sad to leave Kenya, even if I'll come back, to have this back and forth between your country and your place you're serving is important, I think, to reconnect you with the reality of your society. You know, in the society, 3 or 4 years I've seen in Kenya, and when I go back to France, I'm sure things have changed. You know, there's things I've been missing, there's things that have changed, but I'm not aware of. So I think coming back regularly is important to get grounded. As it comes to Kenya, I think what I've found is that, you know, in Kenyan popular culture and French popular culture, we have things that we share, you know. I'm not going back to the Mandamano. This is something. I was told by some Kenyans that the French are the kings of Mandamano, you know.
That's true, actually.
We were world champion, actually, of Mandamano.
You do it excellently.
So we're used to that. And then, you know, this also, I believe also, the French, you know, way of life of, you know, enjoying food and wine, and the Kenyan culture of sherehe. But sometimes they can mix,
They do.
and to the point of light moments, you know. Baada ya kazi, piga sherehe kidogo.
Lazima.
So I think that's you know, I could see some intersection and some commonalities. And then it's beautiful. I think when I first arrived, I said, you know, why not having a sherehe of, you know, nyama choma and French wine? Because I think that's the excellent marriage, you know. But we, like other things, you know, the tea. And I said, you know, I'm not a tea drinker, but tea is a big part of Kenya's agriculture. And we had this I think, very good project with Equity Bank, you know. So we brand Kenyan specialty tea, orthodox tea, the purple tea of Muranga, as the new champagne for tea. And now when I'll come back to Paris, I think on one of those grey days when it's cold and gloomy, I'll go to this prime shop in Paris where you can find, you know, the Muranga tea, the orthodox tea. And I'm sure I'll infuse apparently at room temperature for an hour and drink this beautiful purple tea in a wine glass and remember my time in Kenya.
Remember your time, your days in Kenya.
A piece of
Looking
Kenya in
back,
Paris.
Are there things that now that your tenure is coming to an end, your final day here in September, that you look back and feel, I wish I'd done this? Or I wish I'd done this better. I wish I'd achieved this.
Well, you can always do that. No, one thing I said I've been missing, but it's a good reason to come back, is to go to Mulima to summit Mount Kenya. What I could have done more, you know, is, you know, lots of things. And I wish I could have had more time to do more, actually, because, you know, things takes time, and a day is only 24 hours. So I wish I could have done more in terms of partnership, even though we did quite some things. But I wish I could see, you know, some projects emerge. There's one actually close to my heart that we're launching, I hope, and I'm appealing actually here on TV for people to give goodwill. It's a school in Matare, Kosovo, that the French business community is supporting. It's called Roots Institute, and we're building you know, a very good school in a place that is rough, to give, you know, opportunities to young kids in Matare. It is facing its own challenges. I hope we can find a way to maybe in a couple of months to have a school back in that school.
All right. We'll end the conversation there, but thank you so much, Balozi, for your time. And of course, we hope to see you back again. As you go into the Africa role, maybe if there's anything you're looking forward to with this more zoom out kind of lens, anything as you...
No, I think I'll be happy to come back, in different capacity in Kenya to find, old friends from Kenya. I mean, from everywhere, from Mombasa, Kisumu, Nairobi, Nanyuki. I live also, and I must say, friends in the diplomatic community. The German ambassador has been my best young, and we did a lot of things for, during the France-German Friendship Day in Mombasa, engaging with the young people, telling them also what it meant, to nurture this friendship, because before we were friends, we were foes, and we were fighting each other. And so, and he's also a musician. I think he's staying a little more, so I'm sure I will follow him, and I'm sure he'll continue the good work.
Do you sing or play any instrument?
No, I don't.
I was thinking of a band called the Diplos.
No.
Arnaud and Sebastian.
No, he's much more gifted and talented than I am.
I believe in you.
Arnaud could be the promoter.
Okay.
Everybody gets to play a role. That's all the time we had today. We catch you again on Monday. From us, the fixers, to you, it's Kwaheri Sana, and all the best on your
Asante.
next assignment. And you're more than welcome, because you'll be fixing from a whole different capacity.
Yes.
Coming up next is Winnie Lubembe and Mary Mikali on Your World. Leonie Friday, the only laptop that's supposed to be on the laptop here, DJ. Yourselves, fungeni laptop. Enjoy your
DJ
weekend.
Colita.
DJ Colita. Behind the deck.
If you're not a DJ, close the laptop.
Yeah.
Okay? Have a nice Friday.